Welcome everyone, Dr. Thor here. Get ready for Gnosis. Well, I've given a kind of a review of this. I've shown this in a few different other videos and so forth. And of course, I'm going to give you a closer look at this. Now, this is a potentizer made by a company down in Mexico, which apparently is a tangled web of confusion because this is an exact copy of a Bruce Copen unit. Now, Bruce Copen's been dead for many years now. I'm not sure exactly when. The usual radionic practitioner type dies unexpectedly in his late to middle 60s from unknown causes. But I can tell you one thing, the causes of the fact of that the kickback from radionic units, which I will discuss in other videos. It's interesting that so many radionic practitioners die young, are sick, etc., which is, of course, contradictory. And, of course, if you're using orgone, reserve a gravestone. And we should put on there, I used orgonite. All of these things are important to the bigger picture of what's going on in this fascinating and amazing field. Of course, I've broken through and know exactly how to use all these things, etc. Now, Bruce Copen was a very interesting man. He wrote a lot of books. He was very metaphysically based and put together some very interesting semi-high quality machines. I mean, this is an exact copy. This is built pretty good. I purchased this from a guy in Spain, and apparently it was broken in the actual picture, but he didn't exactly say that. I'm not sure he's the most credible guy, and of course, there was little things here, but the machine works fine. I'm not a big cosmetic freak. I got this at an okay price, so I'm happy with it. But the point is that this basically is a potentizer to make any kind of homeopathics. Of course, spending a lot of money on a machine to make a homeopathic preparation and doing it by dialing in is kind of the old way of doing it. There are much better ways. These kind of dials can be fairly intimidating. There is 20 dials on here. There's 4 sets of 5. You've got other dials here, and I'm not going to get into actually how these things are used and what's inside of here. Well, this is all for Patreon members and all access. If you want that kind of in-depth look, this is not free. I paid a lot of money for this and the bigger picture of it all. And all of this stuff is very expensive running, doing research and development, etc. And what I've done, of course, is my technologies are really boiled down to very effective tools and systems that you can use easily in your life that are pretty reasonable and or can be used for life. Getting something like this takes training. It's going to take time to do it. This is, of course, they have built in some digital aspects of this, and there are ways to get digital machines a lot cheaper than this that are more compact, etc. This is a pretty big machine. This must be, what, a foot's about here. So you're talking 20, 22 inches. It's pretty heavy. I'm not sure what's in here because you got to remember there's no electronic process. Now, if they're using frequencies, that is not radionics. So you're using frequencies, and it is not homeopathic either. Real frequencies that are homeopathic and radionic are not in the Hertzian electromagnetic. So you're making up stuff when you do that. Now, the validity of making a homeopathic preparation based on frequencies, there is none. It's just nonsense. So what you're making is a frequency elixir or preparation, and the validity of that we just don't know. How well does electrical energies form in that particular water or pill base? How long does it last? How effective it is? Well, these kind of amazing products have survived. I should say the fact that they've survived at all when there's really very little behind them and proven, and nobody has said anything about it. But people love anything that's electric because they think something is happening, which it isn't. Electricity does nothing on itself. Electricity, as it does with a toaster, which heats, the electricity goes in there, and it heats a heating coil, which creates very high temperatures so you can toast your bread. Or an electricity will go into a refrigerator and power the compressor to make cold. Electricity itself doesn't do anything. You can't hit a box with a frequency to make it cool. Does everyone get that? So this is the misunderstandings and the primitive interpretations that I am moving past. And watch the amazing products that are coming out from this organization particularly in the next month, where we're converting everything over to fantastic, amazing, powerful systems and tools that are super easy to use. You know, looking at a machine like this is relatively intimidating. You got 20 dials, you have these keypads, you've got more dials here, you've got an in and out plate, you've got more buttons up here, you've got a giant rubbing plate here. And let's see, this popped off. Let's see if I can get this off yet again. We're going to show you what kind of joke these rubbing plates are. Just like the piece of crap FC5, whose rubbing plate connects absolutely nothing. People like to think there's computerization, it's electromagnetic. It doesn't connect to anything. There's no conductivity there. If you're either got a conductivity machine or not, and that's why all these people are highly confused. Now, Bruce Copen certainly was an interesting person. He also knew the fraudulent nature of these machines by basically have electricity that goes to the machine that only powers light and doesn't go anywhere through it. I mean, he was famous for that, and these units are demonstrated or shown the internal guts on Patreon and All Access membership, which shows you the guts of these things. And you can see what it is. The bottom line is that radionic units don't produce any energies whatsoever. That's the nature of them. That's what Abrams eventually ended up with as his tools evolved. That's what Ruth Drown did. They all did that. De La Warr, who took over from Drown, all of their units were non-electric and worked strictly on a higher level of consciousness energies. I don't want to degrade energies by saying, yeah, it's like a power. You know, like Miss Cleo. So the whole idea is that people, because of the evil Christians who have taken that word and made it evil, coming out of their own consciousness, of course, has become a term that is looked down upon. After all, you're just stupid. You just make all the machines, you program them. You're stupid. The machines are smart, right? Well, that's what they tell you. And of course, you can get a dumbademia expert to confirm that. Yeah, machines are, it's called artificial intelligence. That's like saying dry rain. There's no such thing as that, people. I hate to tell you that. Look it up in the idiot dictionary. I should say the dumbademia dictionary. Look under things like morons. You see pictures of the scientists. So the whole idea is all those things are part and parcel of what's going on in the bigger picture that's out there. So to look at this kind of technology and so forth, as I said, Copen's machines were always relatively impressive. They were basically until recently okay priced. I mean, this is a lot of tech for the money. So we need to understand that, and if it's something you're going to use all the time, you're going to make it. If you're going to make homeopathic preparations, which cost about $5 or $6 each at the least, out there maybe more, certainly this would save you money if it does the same thing. Maybe. Oh, if I had a penny for everyone that said they would help me, I'd be the richest man in the world. So the point is that this is the kind of problem. So this certainly is not built as good as the instruments that Copen made. Now, once Copen died, there has been a state of confusion at the organization. I'm going to be writing a book on the founders of Radionics, and I'm hoping to interview the Copen people. There has been a problem since his death. They don't continue to publish his books. I'm not sure that Copen left any kind of will leaving his business to anybody. I'm trying to find out or not. I thought maybe he was gay and there was nobody to leave things to. I mean, this is a problem with a lot of gay people, is they don't leave proper wills. Even regular people or heterosexuals forget to do this, but it seems to be a really serious problem. I don't know. Then I read somewhere else that he was married. I don't know. I'm going to try and find all these things out. because I'd like to include a chapter on him. And there's, of all the people out there, you know, this information is disappearing. It's been 100 years since Abram started out, and information is getting less and less, not more and more. Things are lost. Nobody knows anything, and nobody really cares. There's no organization doing anything out there to save instruments, to keep anything going whatsoever, to do any kind of real research, to publish anything. They're all too busy being self-centered skim buckets. So the whole idea is that's the nature of it. You get alternative people that refuse to work together, and most of them, of course, are paid troublemakers to disrupt organizations. This technology scares those in power. So they do everything possible to hurt you if you're involved in it, and they're full of criminals, and the entire radionic industry doesn't have a single credible person in it that I'm aware of. And of course, it goes into with Copen, etc. So Copen always talked about this, made beautiful instruments. And then when you get in there and you find out the electrical wire just turns on the light, and we'll turn this on right now. And look at the light. Oh, it's like Christmas, Dr. Thor. We're going to see lights. So you turn it on. Well, that was interesting. Did I turn that on? Didn't seem to light up here. One of the problems is this unit comes with a kind of a strange actual, was working a minute ago, a strange actual plug. Let's see that. Let me get that plugged in better. And this is one of the problems with these units and their different international plugs. And we'll go into all that kind of typical European incompetency. But of course, they're such genius. We will go into this. And of course, the light that lights up here is lighting very poorly. I'm not sure if this instrument is working completely right. But the digital panel, let's turn it on here. We'll see it going here. I don't know if we can see that or not. Cut down some of this light. Checking and tuning. Wait. Can you see all that, monkeys out there? Yeah, we should be able to see it. Potency. Diagnostic imprint. And of course, you have the buttons here that you can press. That God knows what if that means anything. Select potency. And of course, you put the numbers in here on the keypad. And this is the level of potency. You punch in or you dial in the rate of the actual homeopathic here into the fictional space energy numbers here. And you turn these, and you can see the dials here to give you kind of a little tour of that. These are plastic dials. I don't know if those are, looks like those are stickers on here. And you turn this dial here, and it has the little pointer here, and it goes around. And they move nice. They don't call these dials per se. I'm assuming there's potentiometers underneath here. I haven't opened this unit up quite yet until I'm ready to actually film it. But here you can see you got that. The on light is very weak, barely works. I don't know, as I said, if that's because the unit is older or the fact that that's another goofy thing. You have these kind of dials here. You've got the levels. This is a level of power function tester. I'm not sure what that means. This just spins around. I never liked dials like that. This has a little click in it. Let's see if it stops. Stops at 12. Goes from 1 to 12. And of course, you have to read about all this stuff. I do have the manuals on this. They also have an automatic button here. Whoops, I don't know, do we see that? Which can make automatic imprint, means you're making that. So you put what's in here generally if you want to transfer over to here. And of course, it has buttons on the top here. If you want to make things, you have an erase. If you want to take the energy out of there, you have a save. If you want that, and of course, here's the copy, etc. And of course, those are basically all part of the actual process of the complicated process of making homeopathics, which you really don't need. Here's some other buttons, and these all apparently seem to work for whatever they do. And again, these are all set in there to use multiple rates, combining things, etc. And it gets down to, again, that it's a big mishmash that we don't understand. Homeopathy, which is using the frequency or the what you would call a consciousness energy to move the energies through it, to then send it into basically a pill that has nothing in it, usually a little sugar tablet, or to move it into water. And these are what you do. So you're putting in the higher consciousness frequency into that particular item that you're taking. So it's kind of, instead of broadcasting it to somebody, you put the energy in water or a tablet, and then you take it into your biosystem. And this has been done for hundreds of years now. Since the original homeopathy was started, I think, what was that, 17 or was it 18 something? This understanding of taking a minute energy and just transferring the energy into somebody that could be anything, including lots of poisons, because your body will react to that. So your body will fight the poison. As such, it will kick in a particular type of healing energy. Now, these poisons aren't really there to affect you at a higher level. They're to just trigger your body. That's how homeopathy works, kind of in a nutshell. I'm not going to go into the great details of it and so forth. So you've got these two wells. What are those? That's about 3 inches deep on each side. Yeah, about 3 inches deep. They're plastic. Again, they're using frequencies, and they're using non-Hertzian electronic frequency conductors. Now, plastic is a non-conductor. I used to hate plastic, but plastic basically is nothing more than solid carbon. It's oil. And there's nothing intrinsically bad about that unless you're eating it, where it tends to gas and other things. So you don't want to take it into your physical system. Especially if you got foods touching it. But the bottom line is that people are eating about a credit card worth of plastic a month. Everything's in plastic. And certainly these things aren't helping our health, but it doesn't seem to be all that traumatic. And of course, it's in everything, shampoos, etc., where they're putting petroleum chemicals. And petroleum chemicals are not really meant to be digested. It has your classic rubbing plate. Let's look at this. This is, again, a non-conductive or electromagnetic conductive. It's plastic. This is plexiglass. See, this is what bothers me about these instruments, is that if it's electromagnetic, then let's do that. Let's make sure everything is metal or some sort of electromagnetic conductor. Now, the crap SE5 does this as well, is that their rubbing plate doesn't connect to anything either. Now, this is just glued in here. Let's take a look at what's underneath here, the mysterious rubbing plates. Well, again, this is metal, but you certainly, what you're doing here is the plastic is insulating any transfer of energy that's going to go into this metal. And I'm not sure what this is. It almost looks like actually sure what they did there at all. It looks like it's just coated with metal. It's not a metal plate per se. The top of it, this looks almost like a metal tape. And that looks probably to be aluminum, not a really good thing to put in a subtle energy machine. And, of course, it has a little bit of aluminum. So this whole plate doesn't make much sense at all whatsoever. And, again, you've got a plastic plate here. Now, plastic wires are insulated deliberately so that the electricity doesn't go through them. So when you plug something in the wall, you're plugging in a plastic insulated wire that plugs into the wall so you don't feel the electricity or the voltage going through that wire. It's an insulator, stopping the transfer of Hertzian fields. Comprende, everybody? But here we go, as people doing. Then they're saying, well, we want to pick up metal because this is a metal plate, kind of a metal plate. It's almost like a circuit board of what they've done here. You can look at the side of this. I would have to scrape that away, but it's not appropriate for right now. This appears to be plastic with metal on it again. Now, what they've done here is the typical thing you see as well. They have a wire or a couple of wires going where? Apparently here and here the two wires are going to. So it is at least making contact with the metal, so it can pick up the energy and carry it into the machine. That's if you could get it. But we've covered it with plastic because that makes it better. Did you engineer this, dumb guy? Because you talk like a scientist. You talky. So the whole idea is, again, here we go with the stupidity. Now, the point is that Copeland has got into cards and other things. Here's one of his famous card slots where, again, you're using magnets where you put numbers in, similar to your credit card. Again, you're using electromagnetics or magnetism, and you stick a card in here. That's the way to do it, to dial in rates. And of course, what they do is they give you a book of rates. So if you want a particular type of homeopathic preparation, they give you the numbers and you dial them in. So it's not too difficult once you understand the system and you're just copying. Now, that's what was done with root drow and everything else. You weren't meant to get your own rates like people do today. You were meant to copy the rates out of a book she gave you, and you would put that in there. Okay, now this isn't a radionic machine. It doesn't broadcast outside of it. It transfers energy into the well where you actually, and of course, this is a rubbing plate to get your own numbers if you want to make your own preparations. So, I mean, it's not a bad idea in the bigger picture, but old technology wants you to dial all the time. I'm not a fan of that. We need to move away from that. How good is your dialing? How good was the person who made that rate? Well, I don't trust anybody. Bruce Copen may or may not have been a good dialer. I mean, he made some interesting machines and so forth. Apparently made some good money. The gossip is that Copen would pick you up at the airport, or I don't know if him personally, but he would send a Rolls Royce for you. Now, I don't know how true that is or not, but maybe he made a lot of money. I mean, he was around a long time. I find it hard to believe there's that much interest in radionics in general. You don't even see the old machines for sale. You don't see, it's very rare to find this. I happened to find this from a guy in Spain with another Copen machine, and I bought both of them. And I always wonder why why we don't see more of these if there's so many of them. Even if someone used it, this is pretty exotic. And the bottom line is that if someone dies, most likely nobody's going to care about it. Now, maybe that's what happens. It gets literally thrown in the trash. It's really sad. This happens to a lot of unusual items out there, and we just really don't know. And it's really kind of sad that it would go to this level. But it's as simple as that. You do have a keypad here as well. Let me see if I can zero that out to some degree. Press. Turn that off. I don't know if you can get this off. So there's all sorts of things here. As I said, there's instructions that come with these things. I haven't really gone through it there. But this is a classic model that... again, there's the history of Copen is kind of funny, and the history of this company is kind of funny as well. And I'll try and wrap it up. But this is apparently there was an American distributor of Copen for years. And apparently once Copen died, he decided to make his own instruments. He started off, or he's making instruments now. There's a phone number in Mexico, apparently Tijuana. I've looked it up. And of course, the other number is in San Diego, which makes sense, which borders Tijuana. So this particular individual is making these machines. I'm not entirely sure. It appears that the Copeland Labs out of England is working with them. And again, once the original person dies, things all fall apart. There is another radionic manufacturer in Mexico, AD Studios. They claim to be out of Mexico City, quite a distance from Tijuana, the border town. They are not connected in any way that I am familiar with. Their quality of instruments is garbage. They make very bad stuff, and it's very expensive for what you're getting. I showed one of their units on this particular channel, and people should look that up if they want to see what that particular, I think it's the PS1 or something, really junk technology. So this is a serious problem. Now, this is put together pretty well. This is plexiglass. This apparently is, and as I said, you've got the digital, you punch numbers in, etc. But there's much cheaper ways to go and much easier to use units. Here's the bottom of this. This apparently seems to be what is plywood. These are multi-layers. This is plywood as well. It's got 4 screws to open it up there. And again, we will be opening this up for actual Patreon and All Access members so you can look inside. It has screws at the bottom here to take the plexiglass off. So you could unscrew it here, pop this off to a degree, but probably that's going to be a problem with the dials if that comes to be the case. Now, we can get a sneaky peek in here. Let's sneaky peek it in here. And we can kind of look let me see in there a little bit. Not too clear there. But we certainly can see there's lots of wiring here. Again, they're most likely... This, of course, there is electronics in here, so it's not like it just goes to the light like most of his units. There's electronics to run the digital screen here. This has to work. So there actually is some sort of number generator in here. So there is something electrical going on. We obviously have lights, and we have all the things that the more advanced units have. Most likely, none of these things do much of anything unless they're adjusting a certain frequency empowerment, either making it stronger or lesser. And it's the same thing with here. Is this actually a frequency generator? Is that what these are doing? Again, that's not homeopathy. They didn't have electrical frequencies machines in 1778, I believe, when homeopathy was invented by Heinemann, or whatever his name was. Heinehan, wow, I can't remember the name right now. But they didn't have that kind of electronics back then. He used physical substances that he then broke down to smaller and smaller amounts to break them down into their energetic form by shaking things, then cutting that, and keep cutting it until you're just pure energy. That's what's behind it. So, let's pull back here. So you've got this wood cabinet, this plywood cabinet. You've got a plexiglass on top of it here. The basic construction is pretty good. These are stickers, which I don't particularly like. For an expensive instrument, they should a little more than stickers, but they look pretty good. And of course, it has little stickers here as well for all these kind of things. And again, that's easy instead of actually screen printing on there. And that is the easy way to do it. Even though if you think you're going to go through all this trouble, make all these cabinets, that you would actually take a little time to screen print on there. But, I don't have any problems with that. You have to do things to keep the costs down of these kind of units by not spending too much money on that. But this is an exact copy of what Copen made. I'm not sure if he had all this electronic stuff. I think most of that happened after his death. The electronics didn't come while he was still alive. And of course, there are other things going on with all this electronic stuff as well. So we've had this kind of USA, and apparently there are instruments manufactured in the USA, and there are instruments manufactured in Mexico. And I don't know if this is the same person or not, but on one of the Copen sites, and it gets confusing who is whom, they have prices for the Mexican made, which is about $400 less than the made in the US, which is kind of interesting. Also, there are people who have copied these kind of machines, and there is which was, I believe, around when Copen was alive. There's a German company using Copen's name. They have converted over, I don't know if they ever sold, quote, analog units, but they have been doing computer-based units for many, many years, and continue to. And again, I just don't know where the audience is coming from. They apparently are the German people are having conflict. They have criticized the Brits, saying their equipment is too expensive and everything else. which basically it is. I don't think any of this stuff costs all that much to make. And if you're set up to do it, it shouldn't be as expensive as it is. But, it's specialty equipment. The stuff out of Britain, you're talking many thousands of dollars. And they claim that they make all their stuff in Britain. The Germans, of course, make all their stuff in China, and they have all these computer programs that are based in fictional frequencies. Like anybody who's using frequencies, they're really just fictional. There is nothing to it. There isn't a frequency that does this or that in general. We're talking about frequencies, and when we do that, we're talking about Rife-type machines. Royal Raymond Rife, who discovered how frequencies can, regular Hertzian measurable frequencies that when pumped into the body have the potential to heal anything. This has been talked about for many years. We just don't know how well these things work, period. Certainly is something that is worth trying and exploring. But that's not radionics. Those are frequency-based machines like Hulda Clark had, who has zappers and other things you may have heard of, the famous author of The Cure for All Cancers, who died at 73 from cancer. So the whole idea is we have to be very careful. That doesn't make her technology invalid. She did a lot of good research and other things, particularly working on parasites. But the bottom line is that when we get into frequencies, we have no idea what works. And because of its suppressed technology, because it's medically based, we can't really get any good information there. Nobody apparently has tried to get information to go through the process of getting approved for it. I'm not sure the FDA would even bother with it, but that's another situation altogether. So we have that situation going on with the actual reality of the people involved in this. So there's this big confusing mess. There's the Brits who apparently are making stuff there, or I don't know. It apparently seems like they're now working with the guy from the U.S. and who seems to be connected to the people in Tijuana. And then, of course, there's the Mexico City guy that just makes a whole bunch of junk. So I'm not sure what's going on. Again, the appearance of this is pretty good. For the pricing and everything else of these units, they are pretty high for what it is. You're going to have to take time to figure out how to use this, and that's going to take many hours of how to use this. And then, of course, it just gets down to dialing in on the dials, and they give you the numbers for the homeopathic preparations. There are better ways of doing it. It does have a card system. They didn't really get too far with that, where you insert one of these credit card type things, which has, again, electromagnetic frequencies supposedly in them. And again, you're getting into electromagnetics, which has absolutely nothing to do with homeopathy. So, this mishmash of confused information is really hurting the industry and hurting the progress of this. We have to cut a line here, a sharp line, draw a line between traditional radionic type technologies, which I call manifesting machines, which work on high level consciousness, and frequency machines. It's apples and oranges, and you cannot mix the two, plain and simple. If you put frequencies through a regular radionic machine, you're wasting your time. So, and if you try and use radionic frequencies through a frequency generator machine, you're wasting your time. It's apples and oranges. It's water and oil. It doesn't mix. People need to understand that. So everybody should be aware as we go through this month here of July at this time of making this. The entire Radionic tech is converting over all of its technology to little mini systems that are super easy to use and very effective. Using complicated big machines like this that are heavy and require a lot of study is bad tech. Everything that Radionic tech makes is super easy to learn, and it's instantaneous to use. There's no courses to take. There's nothing to figure out. Follow simple instructions, which take about 5 to 10 minutes, and you're up and running, and you've got much more powerful tools. These kind of things are just a big mishmash of old thinking, then combining with bogus digital technology to add up to one big giant mess. So until next time.